Well, culture eats strategy for breakfast. That's a pretty bold statement if you think about it for a minute. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. You know, a lot of leaders talk about having a great culture in their company, and there's a few great companies that make it a conscious and calculated strategy. I started 2 successful startups, and in those 2 successful startups, a lot of our success was due to our technology, a lot of our success was due to our team, a lot of our success was due to our strategies. But I really think a lot of our differentiation and success was because of our culture. And our culture was so important that we actually named it, we branded it, and that brand was called Positive Aggressive. Now, my goal today is to take our corporate culture and translate for you to a positive aggressive lifestyle. And I hope you walk away with some good ideas on how to do it. Maya Angelou once said that people are going to forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And that really summarizes positive aggressive. It's how you make people feel when they interact with you. Well, let me give you my definition of positive aggressive. So first of all, aggressive is all about winning. You're as competitive as the next person. You want to win the game. You want to get the lowest grade, or highest grade, not the lowest grade. That's really aggressive there, baby. You want to get the lowest price from your vendors. You want to work the hardest to get that sales order. So aggressive is all about winning. But positive is about how you win, the style with which you do it, how people feel after they have that interaction with you. I want to emphasize that positive aggressive does not mean that everything is perfect and rosy all the time. The aggressive part of positive aggressive says that if you have challenges or obstacles, you're going to address them right away and you're going to address them aggressively. Well, I think I kind of practiced positive aggressive throughout my whole life here. I just never had a name for it. I grew up in South Denver, a family of 6 kids, a family of high expectations. And I really never had any business role models. But one thing I found is that an early positive aggressive lesson is to reach high and try for the unexpected. So picture this, I'm in 5th grade, 11 years old. I'm the one on the right in the high water hand-me-down pants there. I'm not the one with the big ears. That was a joke. And here I am, this little 11-year-old guy, and there were no job postings, but I, unsolicited on my own, called the Denver Rockets season ticket office. Now, the Denver Rockets are the professional basketball team. Now they're called the Nuggets. And I told them that I wanted to be their ball boy. Left my name and number, and that was it. Well, imagine the shock on my mom's face when a couple months later, the trainer of the Denver Rockets, Lloyd Williams, called and said he'd like me to be their ball boy. So for 2 years, I would take the number 5 bus into downtown Denver. I'd put on my little ball boy uniform, the shirt went down to my knees because I was so short. And I had the experience of a lifetime in my very first job. Well, the tip for you is to ask, because you just might receive. You may not hit 1,000% on those shots you take there, but you're going to hit 0% if you don't shoot. So ask, you just might receive, and reach high and try for that unexpected. Well, I went to college, went to the University of Northern Colorado. I spent 4 years as a junior high math teacher. Now, how do you like the hair on this first-year teacher here? Pretty good, huh? I wish I had some of the color back there too, baby. Well, then I did another cold call for another job, and I cold called IBM. And I quickly learned that sometimes your liabilities are actually your best assets. IBM now, at this point in time of the world here, was the most admired company in the world. And I went to my first training class, and all my peers went to Stanford and Brown and Harvard and MIT. I was probably the only Northern Colorado grad that IBM recruited at that time. And I called my wife that night, and I said, honey, I'm over my head. I'm not going to make the cut. I was very, very nervous. Well, IBM at that time, you had 5 training classes, and at the end of each one, they'd rank each of the employees 1 to 30 how they did in the class. It turns out I was number 1 in every single class. Here's what I found out. Those peers of mine were book smart, but I had street smarts. I also had more book smarts than I gave myself credit for. It turns out that teaching background that I thought was a liability was actually an asset. If you can handle 30 junior high kids in a classroom, you can handle an IBM sales call. The other thing that was real nice is I had a fear of failure. I had a little more grit than they did. I had a wife and daughter at home, and those Ivy League grads didn't have that. I had to succeed. I had to find a way to do it. So turn your liabilities into your best assets. Well, now it's 1995. I'd gone through my IBM career. I'd had an unsuccessful entrepreneurial endeavor. And I went to my basement with two of my friends. There were three of us here. You know, in Minnesota here, if you're going to start a company, you go to the basement. In Silicon Valley, you do it in the garage. In Minnesota, you die if you do it in the garage. And I think some of you Midwesterners can understand what I'm talking about there. So we founded a company called Xiotech here. And the team came first, and the invention came second. And what we invented was called a storage area network. And after 4 years, we were acquired for $360 million by Seagate. Now, I recommend everyone do that one once. It's a good idea. But in positive aggressive, you take care of those who got you there. And the first thing we did when we started this company is we had to raise some money. We raised it from angel investors. And angel investors are basically rich people. And we did a lot of this fundraising at the Olympic Hills Country Club bar. And later on, we raised $28 million of venture capital. Well, those venture capitalists are a little bit more sharky. They negotiate terms that are a little tougher. One of them is a liquidation preference, which means they get their money out first, then the other investors get theirs, and then the entrepreneurs get to start making a little bit of money. Well, what we did is we made them retroactively move those terms back for those angel investors. So they get their money first too. And our thought was, and that cost us over $1 million as founders here, but our thought was those are the people that took the most risk on us. They're the reason we had a shot at doing this. You got to take care of those who got you there. So those angel investors were taken care of. It was the right thing to do. Our employees also got us there. And so one thing we did, we took care of them with stock options and stay bonuses and things like that. We also tried to create some traditions that made it special for them too. So when we announced this acquisition, we announced that every single employee was going to get their own Xiotech Super Bowl ring. Here's a picture of it. You can check. I wore mine today. I haven't worn it in a while. Actually, here, it's pretty good. So every employee got this Super Bowl ring. We had Jostens, who does the rings for the Super Bowl winners, commissioned the ring here. And then we had a ring sizing party. And guess where we had that ring sizing party? At the Olympic Hills Country Club bar. The employees loved it. They wore those rings with pride. It was just a great moment for them. Well, now fast forward to 2002. I'd retired for a while. I decided it was time to start another company. I got the same founders. We went back to the same basement. This time it had carpeting in it and painted walls. It was pretty nice. A little cushier. And here's some of the results. We raised $53 million of venture capital. We went public on the New York Stock Exchange within 5 years. And in 2011, we were bought for $960 million by Dell Computer. Now, some of you guys have heard the term B2B. That's business to business. Well, this is a different kind of B2B. It's called basement to billion. Oh, that was pretty good. Well, in positive aggressive, culture is still very important here, right? And so at Compellent, we did it by getting everyone involved and empowered. And the group I was most proud of here that took that mantra to heart here was our support group. And support is usually the most neglected part of the company. They handle all the problem calls from customers. They're kind of the forgotten children in the company here. We tried to make them a competitive advantage. And they were so important to us, we named them and branded them. They were the co-pilots. And here's the mantra for the co-pilots. When a customer calls in on that phone, you are now in the cockpit with them. If they don't land, you don't land. And we had a live, technically savvy engineer answer every single call. And those guys did whatever it took to solve the problem for the customer. Well, I'll tell you, when we sold to Dell, I had hundreds of customers tell me and Michael Dell, don't mess up Copilot. It was their favorite feature in the whole company. So in positive aggressive, you get everyone involved and empowered. Now, once these people are empowered and they deliver the results for you, you got to recognize them. Recognition is huge. When we went public on the New York Stock Exchange, one of the activities you have to do is the IPO Roadshow. And on that IPO Roadshow, the CFO and I have to do presentations to all potential investors. Well, let me tell you a little bit about that grueling experience. In 11 days, we did 69 presentations in 11 different cities, 4 different countries, and flew 25,000 miles. Now, the bankers, they get you a little private jet to do that. And I recommend everyone do that once, too. That's pretty fun. And so the last city we're going to present in is Minneapolis. So I called my partners and said, get our engineering and manufacturing leads together. They're going to the New York Stock Exchange with us on the private jet. So the next day, they all loaded up, and away we went. And these are not normal jet setters. But I'll tell you, engineers and manufacturing people usually don't get their full due. So this is really a unique experience for them. Kind of a fun story. We're on the floor of the exchange, and our head of manufacturing finds his last airline ticket from the last time he wore the suit in his coat pocket here. And it was a ticket on Braniff Airlines. Now, just a couple people chuckled because most of you guys are too young. Braniff last flew in 1982. So it's important to recognize those who got you there and give them some unique recognition here. We later went back a month later and with my senior management team and got to ring the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange here. And here we are doing it. We're going a little crazy here. I would tell you, right below us on the floor of the exchange, clapping for us, was our families. We invited our families. And I did that very consciously because I'll tell you, you got to recognize those who got you there. Those families had made as much sacrifice to have their spouse spend all that time making that company successful. So you recognize everyone who helped you get there, and that's how you build a good culture. Another thing we did was celebrate milestones and little victories here. We had a tradition at Compellent that when a rep got an order, we'd ring a gong. So if it was on the phone, if they were remote, we'd ring the gong for them. As we got bigger, when the orders started getting bigger, we got a bigger gong. So you had a tiered gong based on the size of your orders here. Well, when we got the biggest order in company history, $1 billion acquisition, we had Michael Dell buy us a big gong. And this is a picture of he and I breaking it in at a town hall meeting where all our employees were there, and that was a pretty exciting day, I'll tell you that. Well, traditions are really, really important, and they're important in business, they're important in your personal life, and they're also important in your family life. And I cannot tell you how important it is to create them and nurture them. People remember them. So celebrate those little milestones, and just remember, people worked hard, and occasionally they want to be able to ring the gong. Well, now, let's keep going here. You know, it's also important after you have success to give back. And so if I talk about my life right now, I describe it as 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So a third of the time I'm doing business stuff on some corporate boards and helping create some new companies. A third of the time I'm having fun. You know, I climb the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. And a third of the time I'm doing philanthropy. And at the Soran Foundation, positive aggressive applies there too. So what we try to do is invest in what we call trampoline charities versus safety net charities. A safety net charity is going to catch you. And the problem is, though, you got all tangled up in this net and you can't go anywhere, right? A trampoline charity is going to catch you, but it's going to then launch you right back onto a path for success. And a lot of our money is actually going to inner city education right now. I guess you just can't take the teacher out of the teacher there. So to do with some of the success here, it took a lot of risk. I had to live life on the edge a little bit. I mean, just think about it. The positive side, I have 4 kids, no real savings, my salary's going to be 0, and I go to my wife and say, let's start a company in the basement, honey. You know, on the aggressive side, though, you go, I'm going to figure out a way to raise the money. I'm going to find a way to beat the odds and make this thing successful. I love this quote from one of our VCs here, that entrepreneurship is about living a few years of your life like most won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most can't. And I challenge you to change your mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset, a positive, aggressive mindset. Well, that kind of gives you some feel, some of the corporate learnings on this B2B journey, and now I want to personalize it for you. So first of all, as you get started on your positive, aggressive strategy, I recommend you start out on your positivity first, then go for the aggressive. Get that style down right, get that, the technique you're going to do it, how you're going to do it the positive way first. If you do it the other way around, you might have some unintended consequences, if you know what I mean. So the other thing I want to emphasize is that positive aggressive moments are not all basement to billion-dollar activities. So let's give you some concrete steps you can get started with on your positive aggressive trajectory. Number one is that positive aggressive people are about others, not themselves. Now, Dale Carnegie had a quote that you will find more friends by asking about them in 2 months than you'll get by talking about yourself for 2 years. So every day you have opportunity in the coffee shops, in the elevator, on the cab ride, in the plane, to meet people. And what I encourage you to do is ask them, what's your story? Put that cell phone down, look them in the eye, and ask them what's their story. Don't ask them about the weather, ask something about themselves there. And I encourage you to do this with people that are different than you. So do people with different ages, different sexes, different cultures, and especially different political leanings. You'll be surprised how much more interesting the conversation is with people that are different than you. So try it this next week. Put the phone down, look them in the eye, ask, and then sit back and listen. Number 2, speak more ands and less buts. I ran a board meeting at the company there. If I had a problem, I always had a potential solution when I presented it to the board. And I love people that have solutions to problem ideas here, as opposed to kind of saying, well, we can't get it done. They kind of have an idea of maybe some ways you can pull out of it here. Let me give you an example. Listen to this sentence here. I cannot do calculus because I'm not good at math. Period, end of the sentence. Or let's contrast this with, math is difficult for me, and I just need to spend some extra time if I'm going to be able to succeed in calculus. The ands in sentences make a big difference. It shows you have a way to get out of it. Now, buts are the contrast. Check out this sentence. I want to fix inner-city education, but first we need to fix poverty. Buts just mean you're not up for the task. So replace those buts with ands, and I think you'll start seeing the results follow. Number 3, this is an aggressive move here. Recruit your own personal board of directors. Go find some people you look up to, you respect. You're probably actually afraid to approach them right now. And just ask them this question. Will you be on my personal board of directors? Now, who wouldn't be honored with a request like that? Strategize with them. Get their feedback. Make them make you accountable. And one thing, and you need to change who's on this board of directors as life situations change. Now, one thing I would tell you, that you don't want to make requests of them. They're your personal board of directors, not your personal headhunter. So keep that in mind. So who's on your board of directors? Why don't you start building one today? Number 4, how lucky are you? When I do interviews, I have what I call my 1 to 10 lightning round. And the last question I ask in my 1 to 10 lightning round is, 1 to 10, how lucky are you? Now, when I hear an answer of like 2 or 3, I'm kind of sitting there going, not too positive aggressive here. When I get those 9s or 10s, I get excited. Those are the kind of people I want to hang out with. And I got to tell you that privilege has nothing to do with their answers. I've seen some people with the most toughest personal situations be the most optimistic people. And what I've found is those are the people who are going to make good things happen. So what I challenge you to do is don't talk 10, but start acting like a 10. And my last and final suggestion is going to take some time here for you. And I suggest you do it with your spouse, your partner, or significant others there. And that's to build your own positive aggressive plan. Now, let me teach you how to get started here. And of course, as a math teacher, we're going to start with a hexagon. So draw a hexagon, and each of those 6 vertices, write down the key areas of your life. Professional, family, spiritual and emotional, physical, social, and financial. And just take 1 minute and go over each one and just give yourself an overall grade, 1 to 10. How am I doing in life in each of those areas? And after you do that, you might be interested in some of the results. You might get a skewed hexagon here. And then what you want to do then is to start coming up with 4 to 5 strategies in each of these areas that might impact that grade. And I encourage you on those strategies, some of them make them incremental, ones you can achieve in a short amount of time. Some might be bigger. Let me give you some examples of ones that I did in the past year. For a professional, network with 5 people in the next quarter, and network with them when I don't need anything from them. On the family side, let's do a family activity every Sunday this summer. On the spiritual and emotional side, let's do a family service project in the next quarter. On the physical side, switch from soda to iced tea. Now, I don't know if I had a 3 in one of these grades, but I probably need to get a little more aggressive, but that's all I'm going to do on a 3 grade there, right? Social, go out to dinner with one of my kids' new friends' parents in the next quarter. And on the financial side, cut our expenses by $50 a month and apply it to our car loan. And another one I had once was have $1 million net worth by age 40. Well, I encourage you to start your positive aggressive plan today. And this is something you got to update frequently because things change, you get some things accomplished, grades change, and you need to have different emphasis. Start your positive aggressive plan today. Well, at the end of the day, positive aggressive is all about how'd you make people feel. Just keep thinking about that. How's my interactions with them here? What I encourage you to do is, what is your personal brand? What's your personal strategy? Do you have a name for it? And I encourage you to start going positive aggressive today. Thank you very much.